because sometimes we Christians get weird. We sometimes. Come on. And we start exercising authority when we don't have it. He told us where the authority is, right? And the authority is when 2 or 3. Now watch. This is why I said, find an ecclesia. Get an ecclesia. Find somebody else. Because watch, in Ephesians 3, this is what Paul says. He says that the manifold wisdom of God might now be made known through the church, the ecclesia. Okay, that word church is not, that's ecclesia. That the wisdom of God might be made manifest, okay, made known through the ecclesia to what? The rulers and authorities in heavenly places. He says, in other words, that's where the authority happens when the 2 or 3 gather. The authority doesn't just happen when the 200 or 300 gather. The authority happens when the 2 or 3 gather in your workplace. So let's sum it all up. The ecclesia is not an organization that gathers weekly. We have the authority not to wield power, but to transform cities and regions and have authority. How? And Jesus gave us the strategy in Luke chapter 10, didn't he? He sent them out 2 by 2, and what did he tell them to do first? He says, pray to the Father. He said, first pray. When he sent them out 2 by 2, right? First pray. Paul said it this way to Timothy in 1 Timothy 2. He says, first of all. That means, a first priority, first instance, first of all. First of all, I urge, that's not I suggest. I urge that entreaties and prayers and petitions and thanksgivings be made on behalf of all men. He says, I urge you that you pray, church, pray for all men, for kings. Yeah, okay. Even that. And we can go, I'm supposed to pray for the prime minister? Yes. But you don't know. Listen, this is Paul, who is probably writing this from prison. From who imprisoned him? The kings. Wrongly accused him, persecuted, killed him, all the rest of it. He's like, pray for them. Why? So, and all who are in authority, so that we may lead a tranquil and quiet life in all godliness and dignity. We can't complain about how the world is going to hell in a handbasket and how everything is. He says, pray. Pray. First of all, pray. Then he says this is good and acceptable in the sight of God our Savior, who desires all men to be saved and to come to the knowledge of the truth. In other words, the reason why you're praying is what? For the salvation of men. So he says, pray for the lost. Pray for the lost before you talk to the lost about God. Why pray? So that men and women can get saved. Then he says this in verse 8. Therefore, who's supposed to pray? Just the intercessors, just the pastors. No, therefore, I want the men in every place, workplace. Why? Because ecclesia isn't about a one gathering. It's in every place. I want men and women, by the way, to pray in every place. Doing what? Lifting up holy hands. I'm not that type of Christian. He said it. All of us. I want all of us pray, lifting up holy hands without wrath or dissension. Why without wrath or dissension? Because that is going to shut down. Peter said that. Even dissension in your marriage is going to shut down your prayer. That's in the Bible, by the way. Okay, right? So he says, pray. Why? Who's supposed to pray? All of us. Why? Because we're the ecclesia. What happens if we do this? Paul said this in Romans chapter 16, verse 20. He says, and the God of peace will soon crush Satan underneath his feet. No, underneath your feet.